Only 15% of renewable energy investments are made in developing countries, whereas that's where it's mostly needed, especially those which are not very resource rich. So if we could expand the reach of the treaty to these southern countries, it could bring benefit there.
Hello and a very warm welcome to a special edition of Energy Frontiers, where you join me on the ground for the 30th edition of the Bakui Energiafórum, where global energy CEOs and ministers have convened to discuss energy security, innovation and sustainability. Strong emphasis was placed on global collaboration and improved international dialogue at this year's Bakui Energiafórum. Oil and gas majors and policymakers debated how to advance cross-border partnerships in both conventional and renewable energy. Calling for greater sector cooperation and transparency was the International Energy Charter, a voluntary platform for dialogue between energy producing, consuming and transit states spanning more than 90 countries. I asked its acting Secretary-General if the Energy Charter Treaty remains relevant today amidst growing calls for reform and concerns over its compatibility with climate goals. It's great to see you. Thank you for talking to me today.
Oh, pleasure to speak to you, Rebecca.
Some countries have already exited the treaty and others have announced that they're planning to. Tell me why, and also what does this mean for the future of multilateral energy governance?
Well, I do believe, and I think it is shared belief by member countries of the treaty, that in this, especially in this age when there's a concern about the rise of unilateralism, the international cooperation and global universality is even more important. So I do think there's a value in our treaty, especially if it can be applied more to the developing countries which are having less renewable energy investments. We have recently adopted amendments to the treaty. This happened just last December 2024. And what these amendments do is that now we cover new energy and materials such as hydrogen, ammonia, biogas, biomethane, and synthetic fuels, as well as activities such as carbon capture, utilization, and storage. These things didn't exist 30 years ago.
I also had the chance to sit down with Gauri Singh of the International Renewable Energy Agency to find out how IRENA is facilitating the tripling of global renewable energy by 2030. Gauri, it's great to see you. Thank you for talking to me today.
Pleasure to be here.
Let me start by asking you about IRENA's facilitation of the tripling of renewable capacity by 2030, but also the doubling of energy efficiency. I imagine there's good news and there's bad news, but are we on track?
Well, to put it simply, we are not on track, but there's some good news. And the good news is that we are seeing the deployment of renewables on the ground increasing year on year. Last year we had about 585 gigawatts, which was a growth of 23%. And also, if you look at the investment that is now going into renewables, we did manage a substantial leap of about 100 billion, going to nearly $670 billion going into renewables. But to say if that is enough or not, I mean, unfortunately it isn't, because we need a deployment of nearly 1,000 gigawatts. So we're still not there. And in terms of investment, we need to reach about 1.5 trillion every year to be able to make to this target of tripling of renewables, and to ensure that we stay on track on our climate goals that we have set for ourselves.
In terms of where we're seeing the most rapid pace of renewable deployment, we're looking to China, EU, the United States, and the cost of capital and finance that we're mentioning has a great deal to do with that. Talk to me about other potential areas of growth. Where is rising up through the ranks, and what do they need to do to make sure their deployment is faster?
So clearly, finance, as you said, is a very important factor. So you need to have not just the quantum, that flows into countries other than the EU, China, and the US, where you're seeing the bulk of the deployment. But in the emerging countries like India, in many of the Southeast Asian countries, or in Brazil, you want to see not just the quantum of finance being more, but you also want to see that the cost of capital comes down. Because of the higher perceived risks, unfortunately, the cost of capital is not where we'd want to see it. And for renewables, it's already a well-established business case.
What's your forecast on when that might happen, though? It's much talked about, but in terms of timelines, are you able to point to when it might be realistically happening?
So, I see the next decade as being very important, because that's when the foundation will be laid. And it has to be a strong foundation for us to reach about zero kind of a time horizon that we've set for ourselves. And clearly, that will have to come with not just a focus on getting more renewables deployed, because that has to continue, but we need to also strengthen our grids, we need to strengthen the infrastructure around it.
You mentioned grid. We know the limitations, they're evident, and there's massive investment needed. And even when that investment is made, there's a long lead time, there's a long lag time. What can we do to manage that in the interim, given the challenges that we have with demand?
So as we move into a more intermittent source of supply, which the solar and wind is, then the grids have to be strengthened to be able to take this from multiple sources. The second very important aspect is that the grid operators has to understand what the future is looking like and be able to look at digitization at a very rapid scale.
Corey, talk to me about the next generation of energy leaders. Are you encouraged by the talent pool?
So I think, Rebecca, I've spoken to many CEOs, and one of the things that they will all tell you is that the big challenge they see is going to be the challenge of being able to attract the right talent. We attracted nearly 50,000 applicants who wanted to be, to be a part of our assembly. It makes you feel that this younger generation is really preparing themselves for the future that they know they're going to be a part of.
Our energy future is in safe hands.
I would certainly hope so.
I certainly hope so too. Gary, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Well, that is a wrap of this special edition of Energy Frontiers. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I'll see you again next time.